to 7th Grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about consent and compliance. Modern people perceive magic as mental exercises and visualization. Real magic works on specific formulas that rely on angels, spirits, and demons, and then calling those entities and binding them to make them work for you. So, at an increasing rate, you're seeing more of the supernatural make its way into the scientific and militaristic realms. And it makes the untrained eye really begin to question the nature of reality. But to those that know better, it is only the revelation of the method.
Yeah, people worship technology thinking that
thinking that it has nothing to do with the spiritual realm. And those people who are materialistic atheists are actually the dumb blondes of the spiritual world, because they are just stumbling through life, not realizing how foolish and how ignorant they really are.
They use technology as a catch-all. When they're sitting here and their iPhones and their Androids and all this stuff, Facebook just pops up and they just think it's technology. And I'm like, some of this stuff ain't right. See, people like being ignorant. People love being ignorant. They like it because then they don't have to worry about that aspect of their life.
It gives them comfort.
And how do we say it? People say stuff like, no good deed goes unpunished. Well, being smart is its own penalty. You'll be penalized for being intelligent, because then you understand what the fuck goes on, or you recognize that this ain't what it's supposed to be, or you can spot some shit. And that's a problem with true knowledge. You got to do something with it. See, a lot of motherfuckers, when they're ignorant, I ain't gotta act on it. You know, they're ignorant on purpose. they ain't gotta act on the shit. They don't have to acknowledge anything. They don't have to think any deeper. They don't have to worry about how they feel about shit. But when you're intelligent, more so even when you're smart, when you can actually apply the information. See, just reciting something from a book or something that you learned in 3rd grade, which is indoctrination anyway. But when you can actually apply it, it's hard walking through this world. I'll give a real good example, and I called you when this happened to me. I had a real good friend. We're still tight, so she's still my dear friend. But the first time she read Behold a Pale Horse was like her sophomore year in college. So she calls me and starts expounding about this book. I'm like, yeah, I read that in high. And then she just goes, how do you live? How do you not freak out? How do you, I'm like, I said, look, Black people are not conspiracy theorists. We're conspiracy fact people. And you got to understand that the veil's just been moved for you. It was always there. And now that you're aware of it, it's necessary for you to act on it, act right. Don't be a part of it. Call bullshit when you see it, but also not to your detriment. And that's what Cat Williams was saying. He said, some of us battle the Illuminati to our own detriment. And I said, that's what you got to realize. And then go from there and just be that true.
But he learned that the hard way.
Yeah, but I'm trying to teach that to her because, like I told you, she might have been a junior in college, but I just remember having that conversation for like 2 or 3 hours, like 11 to like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. She's like, well, what about this and what about that? And I'm like, that was always there. Or you talk about Bill Cooper, the guy that wrote the book, Naval Intelligence and stuff like that. Like I said, he even says, "Am I a plant?" or I'm here to make it better. And that's what makes and that's what's so important about this compliance. Sometimes we're sheeple. Sometimes it's comfortable. Sometimes we want to trust in our leader or our leaders. And them motherfuckers they're more morally corrupt than anybody else that you know. But we were just joking off the air. We're talking about, this upcoming election. We don't have much of a choice. When Trump is your best candidate, you in a world of fucking hurt, my nigga. You in trouble. But yeah, that compliance thing, that means that you're willingly submitting and not looking for the truth or not using your vision or discernment or anything.
Here's another thing. Knowledge of something and not acting on it is compliance.
Do you remember when we were kids, they talked about the first seal of America? Benjamin Franklin had designed it. And it's a picture of a pillar, and it shows, I guess, it shows Moses crossing the river and then it shows Pharaoh's army behind it, and it says, "Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to the Lord." That's what's on the first seal for America. It's some deep shit, and it tells you, like, look, you can't sit here and let a tyrant sit on a throne and be tyrannical. You can't. And fighting against that is obedience to God. Fighting against tyranny is obedience to God. But that's not the kind of America we live in anymore. It's just the opposite. Now it's like, yeah, keep typing, keep them likes coming. Be an influencer. But in the past, that was our slogan. Fighting tyranny is obedience to God. That's some deep shit.
There is a UAV, an unmanned aerial vehicle called Kratos XQ-58 Valkyrie. And the first year that it was flown publicly was in December of 2019, and there were wildfires in Australia. It had two modules on board, one called Geomancer and one called Spellcaster. Now, this is directly from the software company's website. Tired of doing all your geospatial feature engineering from scratch? Don't fret, we've got a magical tool for you. These autonomous aircraft fly in a distributed antenna geometry, collectively creating a greater electromagnetic aperture that is similar to an electromagnetic lens used for mapping capabilities and can easily cast a net of witchcraft spells. This is not from the website. If you find this incredulous, you can find a view of the unclassified programs such as Geomancer at the Thinking Machines website. Geomancer is an open source library for geospatial feature engineering. It was developed by Thinking Machines to work with geospatial data, such as identifying gaps in the OpenStreetMap programming.
Basically make cities more efficient type shit.
Exactly. Providing geospatial analytics for their clients and harnessing machine learning to estimate poverty from satellite imagery. This program can locate you in your home and while you are traveling. The AI program can determine everything from your quality of life, including health, to income level, and much more. It knows your most intimate secrets. Geomancer engineers features at a scale. Built into the program is a feature of primitives called spells. It has library capability featuring Spellbook, a great way for their clients to store and save features from their experiments. Now, Geomancer's core application programming interface API is powered by SQLA Alchemy in the back end, and that handles the transitions of a spell into SQL dialect programming, or SQL. Alchemy is an ancient branch of natural philosophy, modern chemistry, pharmacology, philosophical, and proto-scientific tradition practiced throughout Europe, Africa, and Asia. Its aim was to achieve transmutation of base metals into gold. Technologically speaking, the elite are using this technology to drain pockets of all other people, thereby making themselves wealthier. Therefore, a financial and societal alchemy. Now, in Spellbook is a collection of spells that can be sequentially cast and merged into a single data frame. I'm still talking about this program now. You need to understand this geometric grid system was not designed for benevolent purposes.
But also the fact that you're talking about magic and technology woven together.
Now, let me finish. It is a piece in the final puzzle for complete control. It is useful for Geomancer's clients to have feature collection libraries that they can reuse or share with other people. These tools work in collaboration with Sandia Laboratories' Mirage tool, which is a first-of-its-kind capability developed under DARPA's Extreme and National Geospatial Intelligence Agency (NGA) meta-lenses program. The goal is to exploit symmetries to enable large-scale metal lenses to accomplish their task. When you go to the Thinking Machines website, one of the things that you see on the tab on the left is a study about the Philippines. And you're wondering, like, well, what it says is how to zero in the Philippines' most vulnerable communities with the click of the mouse. So let's break down that tagline right there. Zero in, target on the Philippines' most vulnerable communities. All right, when you start referring to poor people as vulnerable, that does not sound advantageous at all. That does not sound strong at all. So that sounds predatory.
Yeah, like you're about to take advantage of them.
So, but like that word vulnerable has these predatory connotations that has crept into the vernacular of modern people. And you hear this when people give speeches, when people are virtual signaling and they're talking about poor people, they talk about vulnerable, vulnerable, vulnerable. And I'm like, if they're vulnerable, you're creating this image about people who can't defend themselves. But they're also enabling a victim mentality so that if
Yeah.
people continue to think in this way, then they've already given their power away. And once you give your power away, then it's super hella hard to get it back. Look at the Patriot Act and all of the rights that were taken away that were never given back. And the government is still spying on American citizens. They just use tech companies to do it.
But when you use the word vulnerable, it also makes it sound like that you're missing out on something that you need to protect yourself. That's the like you see what they're doing to you? They got you, or like you're about to be taken advantage of by somebody else. Clearly, why this person is taking advantage of you. And we're like I said, nobody wants to be taken advantage of. So then like you said, they give away their rights. They gave away their rights to the Patriot Act because they thought they were under attack.
Right. The problem is that you're trained to not look for these things. You're not trained to look for the connections between the occult and the scientific, educational, military, industrial complex. You're not supposed to look at this, but the occult has always existed in the background since the formation of this country. But they don't want people from other places to talk about or broadcast their indigenous beliefs because, that's not the way. And the way, this is a Christian country, so we have to God, country, and this, that, and the third. But meanwhile, there's this Egyptian style right hand, left hand thing going on where you have priesthood of Set and the priesthood of Osiris. One is helping the people, and the other one's doing all the dark art shit behind closed doors.
Also, that's another way they manipulate us by hiding true history.
Say it again.
Greece.
Repeat that. You just broke up.
No, I think that they love to manipulate us with this whole history thing. We're all told that English comes from Latin, and Spanish comes from Latin, and German, and they're all Romantic languages, right? That's the biggest bullshit in the world, because when you sit here and look at how many of our words are Egyptian in origin, and we didn't realize it. Math comes from Mayat.
Chemistry.
Yeah, all those. Even the word diabetes is an Egyptian word for siphon. A lot of our words are Egyptian in origin, but we're not taught that. We're all taught this is Latin. This is a Romantic language. This comes from the Romans and the Greeks. That's all bullshit. that is actually a hustle. But again, if Egypt has such a powerful influence on our society, then are those Egyptian gods still around? Are they legit? We're how do I say this correctly? We're told a watered down version of Christianity is how shit works, when clearly the Christians back in the day were much more powerful than we are.
But I want to get back to what we were talking about with technology and why do you need to see where the poor people are and how many poor people there are, and why do you need a bird's eye view of poverty? What is that going to do for you? All that does is create tools for people that are in control, that want to keep control over areas that they want to subjugate.
Hold it. How about the easiest one, the most diabolical? You know which communities to set on fire and burn down. These people right here ain't voting. We don't give a fuck about them. These people aren't contributing. They're the biggest burden we have. They don't pay taxes. They're the poorest. The richest people don't pay taxes, and the poorest people don't pay taxes. So when you sit here and look at a topic, exactly, the middle class. So if we burn up North Omaha, if we burn up this area right here, it'll take them forever to recover. They'll never actually recover. When you sit here and you're pointing out the fact that what do you need this knowledge for? Like, what are you doing? You don't spend that much money on a program to find something out and not do something with it. That's that's what you're pointing out, and it's very evident that people don't get it. Second, people don't recognize the magic because we're all told magic doesn't exist. We're all told that werewolves and demons and all this other shit is just entertainment, and they let us they make movies about the shit. So you don't realize when the shit's actually go. You either don't recognize it or you've already been dumbed down to it. Anesthetized. It's like anesthesia. That's not so bad. You're about to violate me, and so you see, look, I'm gonna give you a prime example. The Kardashians, the motherfuckers are some Lebanese witches and shit. And the motherfuckers don't see that shit right in front of them. How many times have you watched a ceremony? Have you watched a performance, not realizing that's a ceremony? You watch MTV, then all of a sudden you got people coming out with fire and dancing all crazy. How's that? This is a satanic ceremony right in front of you. You're just sitting here watching it. You've already been dumbed down to the point, and then we worship celebrities so much that's the compliance you were just talking about. Who was that fat dude that was performing during the VMAs, like Jack Harlow or whatever, wearing all black, has horns on his top hat, all red, excuse me, and horns on his top, when he's dancing around with a bunch of people. That is a ceremony.
Oh
that
no,
is some witchcraft.
Sam Smith.
I couldn't think. Please forgive me. I'm sorry.
No, he was dressed up like the devil.
Yeah, but was just dancing during this and danced for a long time. Didn't really sing, And I'm like, let me turn the channel. You're not about to sit here and cast a spell on my black ass. And I'm not even that entertained by this shit. And that word entertainment, that's some demonic shit. But that's a catch-all. People love to hit you. This is just entertainment. Nah, it's a little bit more than entertainment.
But here's the thing, though. So then, I came across this MIT study that was done 8 years ago that used Wi-Fi signals to see people through walls. This is why I tell you people to turn off your Wi-Fi router when you are not using it. Not just because it is bad for your health and the cells of your body, but it creates a predator vision outline of your heat signature in
they can see you
the
through
structure
the walls.
that you're in. They can see through the walls using Wi-Fi. It's crazy. But yet,
but that's how they got you, though.
But you're addicted to this technology.
Yes.
And you're like, I need it. I'm like, all right, cool, but it's an Achilles heel that will bring you down. Because if you put yourself in a situation where you have to be completely low tech, or you have to rage against the machine, then you have to do like Russell Crowe said in Body of Lies, where guys from the future cannot see guys from the past. Meaning, if you're fighting an enemy that lives like he's in the distant past, but you're using future technology, it's going to be hella hard to see that guy because he's not using technology that you require to fight this person with.
He doesn't need it. She doesn't need it. They don't need it.
This is a person that's using face-to-face communication, and they're not using signals to communicate. So then if you don't have signals, then you need guys on the ground to go into that room and get at that person.
Look, don't leave out the most obvious thing that we always talk about. We've said this on at least 10 podcasts. They're trying to make it illegal to live off grid. Like literally, it's illegal. And whenever you decide to move off grid, like, hey, I bought me 12 acres, bro. I'm about to go. If you're black, first you get past the racism. First you got to get past the white folks fucking with you, sending people on your property and that kind of shit. Then you got to deal with the government who wants to know what the fuck you're doing in that black area. And when I say black area, I mean a dead area where that has no technology, where you're growing your own food and you harvesting your own food and animals, and you're sitting, and people don't realize that will keep you occupied. Now we're more worried about being occupied. What am I going to do with my free time? How about minding your own fucking business? That is a huge thing. If you're sitting here raising your hand,
you've created a hub of information that's all around you, a hub of snitches, being the Internet of Things. So now you have a washing machine, a thermostat, which is Google Nest. For those of y'all that have Google Nest in your house, get that shit out of there. Or you have these refrigerators that have cameras on them that can face outward and inward. So you can look at the food without opening the door. Hey man, that's some lazy shit. Okay. Open
Look,
the
stop
door,
talking to Alexa. Alexa's not your friend.
figure out what it is you need, and close the door. But see, the thing is,
You lonely little bit
you don't
motherfucker.
need a Wi-Fi connection to your refrigerator. You don't need a Wi-Fi connection for your washer and dryer. Oh, but I
Well,
can
they
turn
convince
on
you.
and wash a load when I'm not home. How about you just get your life together and wash your clothes at home and organize your fucking life and just be more effective with your time? What I'm saying is the Internet of Things has created a nest of eyes and ears all around you that reports your data back to you. Now you're like, well, I have nothing to hide. Well, okay, that's fine. So do you like giving your work away for free? No, you don't, because you feel like your time and your money and your expertise is worth something. So why would you give away your living patterns and your habitation patterns away for free? That's data. That data is being sold to third-party companies, and they're making money off of you. That is slavery. You are a slave, and you don't realize you've been enslaved. You're perfectly fine. You're perfectly fine with it. And you're a house nigga. You're fine. You love master so much you don't want to escape. You like the concept of being enslaved. Oh, it's not that serious, isn't it? Because you're waiting for the noose to be completely tied around your neck and tightened before you realize, oh shit, I done fucked myself.
It's not. It's not that.
It is that.
Don't.
It's
No,
exactly
no,
what the
no,
fuck I'm talking
no, no,
about.
no. We forget how slavery works. Like slavery is also terrorism. So you're like, well, look, if I do what they say, they won't whip me. And then next, you're snitching on other people because you don't want to be whipped. And next thing you know, you are completely part co- compliant with the slavery. Like, hey man, long as they don't bother me, it's cool. That's the most fucked up shit there is. You know,
Yeah, but
you
that is Stockholm syndrome.
it's worse than that. Like you are participating in your own slavery. You are like, look, I ain't going nowhere, but I'm gonna tell on
That's
everybody.
compliance. That's
Yeah,
consent.
and when you give that shit, then you've completely given your soul to somebody else. But the problem is, we always say on this podcast, whatever they do to black people, they're practicing on us, and they're going to roll it out to everybody else. And they've been doing that shit since slavery. The best thing about slavery is to make it a willing activity. Yeah, no. Yeah, let's talk about reconstruction. Let's talk about sharecropping. So you got these niggas living on your property who are now free, who don't know how to be free. So what do? Like, hey, look, I'll let you keep working for me, and you keep tilling this land, and you'll pay me, and I'll pay you, but then you have to pay me to live here, or you have to pay me or rent the land from me. Next thing you know,
But see, but then the people that are against reparations will tell you, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with that either. I mean, those people didn't leave. That's on them. Oh,
no,
okay, you that person then. I see who you are.
look, the whole problem with the situation is that we don't see that slavery is going to be done to us in that fashion right there. Like, okay, like, you know what? I can't beat you and enslave you that way. But what I'll do is I'll make everything impossible for you to afford, and I pay you, but then you pay me to have things, but the things that you're buying, you don't have enough money for. So eventually you'll be indebted to me. And then you'll spend all your time in this rat race, not taking care of your family, not raising your children, not worshiping your God, and not being spiritual and being the being that you are. But you'll be the most cutthroat nigga for middle management. You feel me? Like you want to be. I want to be a house nigga so bad, and people don't. And when you use them terms like house nigga, and people start to cringe, and I'm like, look at what it is. Look at that person. Look
Yeah,
how
but you don't
hard they.
have to say it that way. Yes, I do. I have to hit you over the head with a sledgehammer.
You have to be offended. If you're not offended by what I say, then something's fucking wrong with you. If you're not offended by us having this conversation, and that's the whole thing is. In my former job at the union, I used to call people house Negroes all the time. And one time my boss, he says, "Can I say that?" I'm like, "Nah, you might not want to say that. I'll just say it for you. Such and such as a house Negro." And it has nothing to do with your race, ethnicity. It's just certain words, and Malcolm X pointed out that certain words have a sting to them because they force you into reality. They shake you into reality.
You got to realize, though, like, when that white person asks you that question, they really relish the idea of using that word. They're like, that's not saying the N word, but it's pretty damn close.
Well, it was a very specific situation that somebody was violating the union, and
It doesn't matter.
here,
It doesn't matter.
no, no,
What I'm
no, no,
telling you is
no, no. I
what
understand what you
that
said.
person, what they stumbled upon. Like you showed them like this
I opened
dope
that.
ass
Yeah.
collection. Like you showed them the whole collection. It was like, oh wow, can I have some of that? No, no, white man, that ain't for you.
Nah. Now, but that's the issue is that we get mad at like this in this generation. We are all about fucking over the messenger. We're all about fucking over Kanye, but we don't have no problem with them Jews still fucking us over. In this day and age, if somebody says something you don't like, you don't give a fuck about the message. You want to beat that messenger up, and I'm sorry if somebody tells you you're a house Negro, you need to sit there and reevaluate. Okay, am I really? Let me think. Nah, motherfucker, I'm not. But you wouldn't use a word that strong. There's certain words that, like asshole. There's no other word that fits asshole. When you call somebody asshole, you're very specific about their behavior. There's something they're doing as an asshole behavior. What you can say butthole, but it don't have the same. Nah, man, it don't have the same flavor. Asshole rolls off the tongue and it's very specific, and those are certain words that are addressing behaviors.
So
Right now, the behavior is a compliance, is that you're giving away your rights and powers, that you sit here and believe everything that they taught you, that they indoctrinated into your head,
check
and you
this out.
can't.
When you send your kid to school, you temporarily give up custody of your child.
Nowadays, yeah, that's why they tell you to put your children in a trust. When people try to teach you that kind of stuff, you're like, that guy's crazy. I thought the same shit. Now that you get older and you realize that, hey, man, I should have put my kids in a trust. A trust exists outside the government, and if you understood that shit, but nobody teaches you that. That's not what
So
we're taught.
when disasters happen, you must have the resources to feed and shelter your own family. You cannot depend on the government to do this for you. You see, okay.
Hey,
No, no, no.
hey,
So
hold
just
it.
hold on, hold on. I need to make this point, so just hush for a second. So this is the deal. When you give the power to shelter, feed, and clothe your family to somebody else, you are no longer the figurehead of the household.
You're no longer in
You
charge.
have
Period.
given away the power. So if you used to everybody calling you daddy and mommy, you got to wear that mantle all the way to the grave.
Until they're grown, at least until they're
Listen,
25.
no, all the way to the grave. Because the thing I'm talking about here is that it's primal. You have to be able to provide shelter and food no matter what. And I'll give you an example. 10 years and 12 days after the September 11th attacks on New York City, on September 23rd, 2011, in Denver, Colorado, there was Operation Mountain Guardian. The Department of Homeland Security and FEMA conducted a disaster drill in Denver that they called Operation Mountain Guardian. The plan was all inclusive and basically shut down the Denver metropolitan area, including Denver International Airport, shopping malls, schools, and several other public venues, including the football field where the Denver Broncos play football for the NFL. As a part of the drill, several busloads of school children were taken away to the Denver Broncos field along with their school teachers. Surrogate parents were hired by FEMA to pick up the children at the stadium. The training facility was apparently, the training exercise was apparently a desensitization exercise for security personnel designed to refuse demand. Desensitization exercise for security personnel designed to refuse demands to pick up children from their pretend parents. The real parents of these children were not properly notified that your children would be transported to the stadium and would be part of this disaster drill. As a parent, you should have a major problem with these non-notification of the relocation of your child. It is ironic because before a school child is allowed to go on a field trip, their parents and teachers are required to fill out a permission slip or forms that must be signed by a parent or guardian of the child. Now, it's fine to remove a child in an emergency situation to an area of safety, such as a tornado drill or tornado warning. However, it is a major issue when government officials refuse to release children to their parents because the authority over a child belongs to a parent, not to a government agency. In the latter part of the event, as parents discovered that some of their children were taken to the football stadium, some parents attempted to go to the venue and pick up their children. When they did so, the children were not released to the parents. Again, who is the sovereign? The government or the people? And speaking of the Denver International Airport, explain the meaning on the mural near the airport baggage pickup where there are children being led by a Russian soldier carrying an AK-47 and a gas mask. So,
it's like also a bunch of different races of kids too. It's not just all white kids or all black kids. It's like a black kid, a white kid,
it's
a Mexican
children.
kid. Yeah.
So, the Department of Homeland Security, let me just stop for a second. Okay. This idea of doing this, taking your kids from the school to another location and not releasing them to the parents, oh no, that's not happening. There's going to be hand-to-hand combat going down at that moment. I don't get. I can disarm a motherfucker. I don't care. That situation
that the kids
will
don't
not
belong
happen.
here anymore. They sit there and teach these kids that
So
shit.
I want to go back to the Uvalde shooting in Texas, where the police were preventing parents from going into the building to get their children. This happened 10 years before the Uvalde shooting. So then the Uvalde shooting happens, and the kids are in the school, and they're not letting parents go in. My man, let me tell you something. Nobody's going to stop me.
Let me explain something to you.
That's guns, no guns.
Look, so you tell me that you have a situation, a hostage situation, and my kid is in there. It's my job to go in there and get my kid.
Dude,
if I die,
that's when Snake Eyes shows up. That's when Snake Eyes shows up. I'm not me anymore. I become somebody else.
Look, if I die in the process, that's just how I don't need your permission to be a father, and that's how people get confused now. See, they tell these kids. They started it when we were kids, but it was always a joke to us. If your mommy and daddy spanks you too much, you can call this number. I can, my mom was like, go ahead and call the police on me, but it's gonna take them some time to get here. By the time they get here, I'm done beating your ass, and they can take me to jail or whatever. But I'm gonna make it worth your while, nigga. Call the police. And we grew up with that joke, like, hey, I wouldn't dare call the police on my parents.
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah, these motherfuckers nowadays can't wait to call the police on their parents. They can't wait to make their parents comply with it. See, I can make you do this, and I went through it with my kids. Calling CPS on me, all this bullshit. So what you got to understand is that they're teaching these kids to call a higher authority, but they're not teaching these kids discipline or actually how to be adults or even how to be people. They removed the civics class, so even if they were paying attention in school, which they're not, they would know how to self-govern and how to participate in the society, but they don't. So what they do substitute that with is the Kardashians and TV shows and reality shows and bullshit like that, and people fighting and throwing drinks on each other at the reunion special. that that's what the kids are being bombarded with, and then that they can get on Facebook and keep Facebook from their parents. Like my younger kids don't even have a Facebook or don't even have cell phones and shit, and they just not got cell phones. But my other kids had them, and they loved it. You would try like, no, you can't be on Facebook. They would sneak and do it and have multiple accounts and all this other bullshit. All it's doing is teaching kids how to hide shit from their parents, but still how to sit here and comply and be complicit with this society where, like, hey, if you're on Facebook, everybody knows where you are except your parents. So you think that shit is cute. It's so many different scenarios that people aren't paying attention to, or that they're laughing about and not realizing it's not funny at all. It's fucked up. It's fucked up where you no longer own your children. Your children are not yours.
Bullshit.
You know, yeah.
Bullshit.
They teach the kids that they society
that is gaslighting.
And you literally are telling me that you're going to remove my child from school without letting me know, and then when I come to pick the child up, you won't let me.
So let's extrapolate something real quick. That same type of gaslighting can be used to make you think your own soul is not your own.
Ooh, that you're not God's property anymore.
Hello. So then that you have put the Internet of Things all around you. You've eaten so much food with plastic in it. You've gotten things put into your body, I'm not going to use the word, put into your body that change the DNA, molecular chemistry of your body. That you are slowly becoming a synthetic being. And then we gotta deal with the ghost in the shell. So then we gotta figure out how to get at the animus that's inside you and program that toward our liking, so that your soul is not your own. This is gaslighting on the most extreme level, and they're using sorcery combined with technology to do this. And you have put yourself in a headspace where you believe this is not possible, because that is gaslighting, making you think something that's happening isn't being done, or you're the one that's doing it.
Or they use the news and the media to bring up what could happen. This could happen, and you're struggling and you're angry and you're having an emotional response to something that might happen, all while they're doing something even more dastardly to you. They don't bring that shit up. So the media is much too powerful in this society. The media is more powerful than the individuals now, and the media can tell you who to like and who to hate, and who to love and what to worry about. And sometimes we're so. You can't sit here and be more worried about things that might happen than the things that are really fucking you up. And diet, you just described us consuming forever medicals and forever chemicals, and the plastics and microplastics are fucking you up. They're finding them in the cell, between the cell wall and shit like that. That's fucked up.
You're going from organic biology, natural biology to synthetic biology. You're becoming something else. You're becoming something that can be manipulated, because it's harder to manipulate a person that is God's creature. I'm going to tell you something that I experienced recently. So I travel a lot for work, and I was out of town yesterday, and I was staying in this hotel, and I was talking on the phone, and it was late. Yeah, it wasn't too late. It was like 10 o'clock, but this feeling came over me. Now,
it was late enough.
It was also the 23rd day. The 23rd day of the month. Now, you're like, oh, that's numerology. Hey, listen. I just told you there was this exercise that took children away from their parents on the 23rd day. 23rd day, all types of stuff, weird shit happens. In I Ching, it means break apart. So I began to experience thoughts that were broadcast at me. There were like thoughts that were broadcast at me. So then I began to wonder, like, do hotels have sigils built into the building? Are there sigils in the construction? Are there sigils in the room? Sigils are magical symbols. For those that don't know, sigils are magical symbols that are used in spell casting. So then I began to wonder, well, if there aren't sigils, then there is something that's being broadcast to transmit these thoughts at me, because these weren't my own thoughts. Because I know myself really well. We did a show recently called Know Thyself, about times like these, moments like these, when you can feel thoughts broadcast at you. I experienced this on September 11th when I was downtown and it happened, and I could feel an artificial wave of fear in the air. And I didn't speak to anybody, but I could feel it in the air. It was palpable. Well, this same feeling was broadcast several days ago when I was in this hotel room. And it was crazy because I could turn the TV on and off, and I could still sense these thoughts. And I'm like, these aren't my own thoughts. I don't think like this. How do I know? Because, ladies and gentlemen, I have been practicing meditation consistently since 1994. Alchemical meditation. Duct tape will tell you, like, this is something that I've been on my entire life. I've been practicing martial arts my entire life, so I know myself thoroughly well. And so when there's something that's coming from the outside, I'm like, nope, that don't belong in here. Those aren't my thoughts.
Look, in this watered down version of Christianity, which is based on ancient Egyptian religion, the first thing they teach you in these old religions is knowledge of self. Now, they talk about it with the Muslims. They talk about it with these other ones, all these Noble Drew Ali, all these other mystic arts. The first thing they teach you is you got to have knowledge of self.
Now, but hold on a second. I want to go back to the technological part of it for a second, because on this show, in many episodes, we talked about V2K technology, voice to skull technology, where people talk about gang stalking when they have become a person of interest and they're having thoughts broadcast at them. Now, this sounds so far out and crazy to most people, but yet it's real because the patents have been found. And Duct Tape has sent me information about this that I went to go and look up the actual patents and found them. They're real. They exist. And there was a guy on a clip one time. He had an entire list of them. He said, you can look up this number, this number, this number, this number. And he's like, oh, isn't this convenient? And then you go and you look these patents up, and I'm like, holy shit, this is real stuff.
Hold it, stop. So this is some personal shit I've been on, and you know this. I've been looking into patents and copyrights and all that stuff. And most black folks, we don't believe that we can get a patent, or we don't know how this shit works. And I was breaking down like, hey, when you do a patent, you have to pay $700. So, and if you look it up, the first $300 is actually research to see if somebody else has this patent or if there's similar stuff out there. And then the other $300 is registration. So for you to get that motherfucking patent means they've already researched it to see if this is legit, if this is, and so for you to get a patent, they would not have granted that patent to those people or person or whatever if they hadn't researched it. So the patent office researches patents also to see if there's anything else out like it, if it's feasible, if it makes sense, that kind of stuff. So if you got a patent on something, another thing that you brought up earlier, how do I say this correctly? So let's get back into this whole magic and being mixed with technology. You had talked about something earlier, but here's one I love to bring up. The Vatican had owned a telescope called Lucifer.
So why do you have to call it that? Why do you have to use that acronym? Can't you like take the letters, the names, and like just like hold on, but can't you do a word salad and change it up so that the acronym puts the A where the S is and the N? Like, why do you have to do that?
Lucifer is the light bringer. So but a telescope don't bring no light, nigga. So even if you went by the definition of the motherfucking word of the name, it don't bring. But now, if light is knowledge, and we're looking at it from a Masonic point of view, like, well, what knowledge is it bringing?
But listen, this plane is called the Valkyrie. Valkyrie means the chooser of the slain.
Yes. So why would you name some fucking sterile ass technology, some technology that technology should have R2D2? You feel me? It should be like dots and whistles, but it's not. Instead, you want to name it Valkyrie. Hmm. So that's telling you that they've woven magic and technology together, and we don't realize it because we just give them too much
Dude,
reverence.
this is
That
the
they,
crazy part. This is the crazy part. There is a class of oxidative enzymes that produce bioluminescence. You know what it's
yes,
called? It's called luciferase. Luciferase. Yo, why do you have to call it that, man?
you can't think of no other word with light in it other than Lucifer.
But
Other
but I'm saying, like, and it's such a beautiful thing, like when you see this
the waves and
bioluminescent
shit.
algae,
Yeah, yeah,
or
you
these
see it.
bioluminescent creatures that create their own light deep down in the bottom of the ocean. Why are you calling it that? See, this entire show episode is about how technology and the occult is intertwined, and we give consent and we comply with these things, and we repeat these words without thinking about it, and then
The only modern
we defend the scientific usage of these terms.
we defend our own ignorance. But here, the only people that got it right, I shouldn't say modern people that got it right, are the Nazis. They was doing the occult and they was doing technology at the same time, and then they lost, and then we did Operation Paperclip, and we brought the niggas over here. And I didn't realize we brought over 1,200 scientists, maybe 2,000 scientists from Nazi Germany to America to work on our shit. And here's the thing. Here's the kicker. We talk about von Braun all the time with NASA. NASA, they were doing ceremonies at night. They were doing all kinds of naked sex on shit and fucking smoking weed and
Sex
doing all kinds of
magic.
crazy sex magic. But at the same time, so look. Here's. I'm just giving you an example of something. The people love to ask this question whether we went to the moon or not. I'm not on that right now. But let me ask you this. Suppose the reason we made it to the moon is because of magic and technology. And now you got these niggas right now who are just doing technology. When you ask when they ask that one scientist nigga, like, hey, we forgot how to get to the moon. We didn't forget how to get to the moon. We no longer do the magic part of it. And if you, and again, I am not an advocate for this shit. So let's not. But I'm just simply saying, suppose that these niggas is building rocket boosters and they ain't doing the sex magic part. Suppose these niggas is doing that shit and they're not doing the whole occult part, and that's why the shit ain't working. That's why they ain't breaking through certain barriers. That's why. And suppose that could be it. So again, I'm not condoning all the Masonic or all the magic or none of that shit. I'm not condoning it. But I'm simply saying that might be the reason that these motherfuckers ain't making the breakthroughs they were making in the past, because they're not combining the two things together. And now when you sit here and you got the Lucifer telescope, that shit ain't bothering nobody. There's a reason they wouldn't have named it that if it didn't have some significance. I thought Lucifer was the bad guy, nigga. I thought we didn't like that nigga. So why are we commiserating him by naming something after him? That's my point. The names have, and that's another thing that we've gotten away in this society. Names have meanings. Like we'll name a nigga Michael in a second, but Michael's a warrior for God. So James is a conqueror. We don't realize that these names have definitions, and that sometimes we're putting that burden on that person by naming them that. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to this technology. It's the same thing. When you sit here and mix technology and magic together.
But you ever notice that, like, the coldest motherfuckers in sports entertainment, they first name is Michael,
I
Jordan,
knew you.
Jackson, Tyson.
Tyson, yeah. So that's my point. That name is warrior for God. So if you knew the definition, then you might expect great things from a motherfucker. James, like I said, that name, but we weren't taught that. We're not taught that. We just think a name is something they use to call you. Like if Brasco, no, you are so much more than your name, my nigga. Or that name has some motherfucking power and we don't realize it. So we are sit here. I say this correctly. We have been brainwashed early on when it comes to America that, like, when we were kids, we were taught that George Washington chopped down a cherry tree. But now that we find out what the cherry tree was, as a black person, your whole idea, like, oh, wait a minute. but that's how they get you. They've been indoctrinating you and watering down your history and your relevance all this whole time. And next thing you know, you're defending it. Shit, man, Lincoln freed the slaves. That motherfucker didn't like slaves. When you read his memoirs and his books, and you realize all this shit. But that's not what we're
Yeah,
taught.
he was a vampire hunter.
A damn good one at that. Look, what I'm saying is when they talk about chopping out the cherry tree was the flag of the people that were already over here. And then when you realize that flag would have started had other significance,
Symbolism.
then yes. But that symbolism has shit to do with magic also.
So then is that representing the Iroquois Confederacy?
Well, it's supposed to be a Moroccan flag. So look, one of the first things that George Washington did when he took over as president was send a letter to the Prince of Morocco, saying that, hey, I'm sorry for the death of your father, but this, and this, I hope we still have trade. The reason he was doing that is because these people over here were already Moroccan. Morocco already had a settlement over here, and we're not taught that. But the reason he did that is because, hey, and if you look it up, what is the first nation to recognize America's existence was Morocco. Damn sure wasn't England. Damn sure wasn't the mother motherfuckers. So, and a lot of these Native Americans, to sit here and call them all Indians is like a disservice. These motherfuckers were as vast and as individualistic as you can imagine, and there were thousands of tribes. And even the word tribe.
What about the Queen of California?
Khalifa, yes. When you read about Khalifa, they tell you that she's a mythical creature or mythical person, but then you find these court documents where she went to England and argued with them for her freedom and her people. And she sat there and she told them to kiss her ass. Look this shit up. She bared her bottom to them and told them to kiss it. So kissing ass comes from that. And when you realize that it's an insult and that this person was a real person, it changed. And back then they also referred to it as the island of California. That's some other deep shit I don't know enough about yet. But what we've been desensitized, and we've been told that a lot of shit that's real is fake, and a lot of shit that's fake is real. Before my homeboy passed, we always said that shit, how they would bury shit in cartoons, how they would talk about warps and they would talk about different shit in cartoons. But then there's other shit that was a real shit in the cartoon, but then the other shit that we thought was real was the imaginary shit, and we were holding on to the imaginary shit. We talked about that all the time. Look, I'm telling you that this technology has magic sprinkled into it, and that's probably why it's working. It's probably why it has the ability to hypnotize you the way it does, and you don't realize that. When we talk about Haiti, we talk about them black folks winning that war, they use magic. Did they really? And if they did, so what? They were fighting a much bigger opponent. They had to do what the fuck it took. And when you realize that the motherfuckers understood nature and they understood their technology and their magic, they understood. So that's another thing I didn't understand. Hoodoo and voodoo ain't the same thing. Voodoo is one aspect, and hoodoo is more of knowing the plant life and knowing how you exist in this reality. And when they break that shit down to you, like, oh, really? That's some deep shit. So you would hear the old black people say, "Go to the hoodoo woman," and you thought they were saying voodoo wrong. No, the hoodoo woman and the voodoo woman are two different people. And if you needed a cure for something, you would go to the hoodoo woman. And if you needed somebody you found out your wife was cheating on you, or you found out your husband was cheating on you, you would go to the voodoo woman. They were two different people. Now they might have been the same person in a sense, but it's not the same technology. And when you look up the Haitian Revolution, you look up Mackendal. That nigga killed 3,000 French people by poisoning them and taught us. So that we're not taught our own magic. We're literally taught a watered down version of Christianity, and they do that shit on purpose. And they took out all the good shit from Christianity. When you sit here and you see this guy, he's reading that Bible from the 1700s or the 1400s, and it has 13 months. People freak out because can you imagine they have us on the wrong circadian cycle. We're not living right. We don't understand the proper way to harvest food. We're eating the wrong stuff at the wrong time, worshiping, and that shit right there is why they're able to control us the way they are. And when you bring it up to somebody, they're like, "No, I know the months. There's 12 months." That right there, yes, that I know. And you're like, "What the fuck? I can't get through this." Look, I'm just trying to tell you the truth, and that they, right now, if we, how about this? Let me give you an example of how crazy this shit is. You keep reading these different ancient civilizations who are telling you that the world's going to end in 1993. But if I'm counting 12 months and they were counting 13 or 14 months, we ain't arrived at that shit yet. That's why it's a different time in Ethiopia, because they're going by a different calendar. And if that's the case, then maybe we haven't hit that shit yet. Or maybe we're not recognizing the signs because I have 12 months, motherfucker, and I know. I was taught this in first grade. I know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm like, nah, you were indoctrinated. That they taught you what it would take to make you a good worker and not question anything. And then when you question stuff, you get punished just like a slave. When you sit here and try to break out and go for your freedom, they chop your foot off. When you sit here and do this, then all of a sudden your internet doesn't work. They are fucking with you. And they're controlling you. And you don't realize that they're using magic to control you because we don't know anything about magic. You weren't taught that in school, so it must not exist, right? Because you weren't taught it. And then when you go to try to find out about it, they call you crazy. Crazy is a dismissive word that comes out, and so you don't have to explain yourself. Oh, that bitch crazy. Nah, man. Them hoodoo people weren't crazy, or Haiti wouldn't have won that war. Haiti wouldn't have beat the superpowers of the world, which was England and France at the time. So Haiti wouldn't. They beat the Spanish too. So if that motherfucking magic is how they did it, then you should be exploring that shit. Because when they invoke Oshun, that motherfucker don't negotiate. So yeah, man, we've done it, but now we're told as black folks that, hey, nah. There's a reason that they sit here and go to all the black places to find out how black shit works. There's a reason they go to Africa. There's a reason they go to all these different places and learn that shit. And here's another thing for white people. White people come from Europe, but Europe ain't white. That's something else that we need to talk about. So Russians are black, Germans are black. So, and when they go over there, they always find new shit. They always find new technology or new history. And so that's the part. That magic is real.
Check it out. So, going back to the school training exercises, DHS, FEMA, and the safety of students. FEMA has published a training manual which serves as the rough draft model for school safety to be enacted by all 50 versions of the State Department of Education in times of emergency. Of particular importance and relevance is a document from the Arizona Department of Education entitled Staff Skills Survey and Inventory, which is located on page 76 of this school safety manual. In the aftermath of the disaster scenario, it would be prudent for school officials and assisting public officials to know which of the school staff members are first aid certified and have experience in EMT operations, can perform CPR, can assist in triage functions, and can help with food preparation. Certainly, acquiring a database of people who possess these skills would be extremely critical in meeting the potential needs of children in the context of a dangerous set of circumstances. However, on the checklist are procedures however, on the checklist and procedures form, there are skills on this FEMA inspired document, which filters down from the federal government to the state level. This document being acquired from the Arizona Department of Education, which attempts to assess staff skills in the times of emergency. This document is listed and it provides the information as such. It asks teachers, administrators, and other support personnel within a school setting if they possess skills which seems to be out of place for a disaster scenario responding in each school setting. For example, the document asks school personnel if they have experience in construction, shelter management, emergency management, structural engineering, firefighting, electrical wiring, plumbing, carpentry, journalism, ham radio operation, and a recreational leader. Why would schools have the need for people that can do construction as well as plumbing, electrical work, climbing, and shelter management? What in the world are schools under stress going to be doing? Nothing. Nothing at all except for keeping the kids calm and safe and out of danger. That's it. At this point, I would invite you to go and look at this page, because scan this FEMA document and familiarize yourself with the skills that are being assessed by the various departments of education around the country. So the descriptor terms such as conscription, commandeering, and drafting come out of the mouths of people that work in government. People that know nothing of the New World Order and know nothing of Operation Mountain Guardian were concerned when you show them this document. When you consider this questionnaire within the context of Executive Order 13603, in which the President can seize control over all resources, including people, I would like to think that these two variables are not connected. However, in perilous times, it is difficult to not be suspicious.
Don't you find it suspicious? Look, here's the deal. In that whole document, not once they talk about you getting your children back. How about that part? So you would think that if something bad happened, that would be a temporary fix, and that in maybe a couple days or a couple hours, the parents will come get them kids. They're talking like you've already relinquished custody of your children.
No, they're talking like some breakaway civilization type of shit. Like, these kids are coming with us now, and we need people who have these skills, who can do wiring and structural engineering. What? Okay, so you trying to figure out if this place is going to collapse? I can understand that, but all this other shit, like, come on, man. What the fuck is this? Like, it sounds like some Iron Mountain, let's take these kids away and take them to a breakaway civilization, so now we have a new resource. Look, it's a lot. It's a lot to consider, but all in all, compliance and consent is what this episode has been about, and how technology and magic have come together to subjugate you, and many times with your compliance and your consent, because you have not done the study and the research to see that the occult has been there all along, slowly, like a person that's tailing you in a car, but from a distance, it eventually catches up to you. Look, that's all I got. We out. Peace.
Holla back.